What's up everybody, Travis here. I got Los in the studio. We're doing a dev tip tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We're talking about website design and development. Specifically tonight, we're talking about responsive web design. So in the industry right now, there's a big shift going on, probably one of the biggest that I've seen, and I've been doing this for a while. And everything's going towards mobile and responsive design. And this is largely due to these little punks here. These mobile devices have really changed the way that we as designers and developers need to work.
If you do a quick Google search, you'll notice that internet traffic coming from mobile devices at the end of last year amounted to 27% of total web traffic.
That's a lot, man.
That's a lot.
That was mostly me. I do a lot of...
Google also says that it's up about 70% from the end of 2012, only 6 months ago. As you notice, the internet moves fast.
And so does Los. Okay, so let's talk about how we handle mobile devices, how we handle responsive design. This video will cover 3 simple steps to code a responsive website to make your website look good on a desktop, on a tablet, on a mobile phone.
Let's do codes, bro.
All right.
Most mobile browsers will take your website and scale it proportionally to the device's screen width. Now the problem is you probably design your website to look awesome on a desktop, or even better on a laptop. But the annoying thing is you have to pinch and zoom about to navigate your site or whatever it is that you made. What you doing?
Nothing, just pinching and zooming.
Or maybe you're trying to click on a link, which is a nightmare. You have to zoom in and then tap on a link.
Now there is a way to reset this default behavior. The meta viewport tag allows us to tell the browser to use the device width as the viewport width and to disable that initial scale. It looks like this. So now when you're looking at an iPhone, for example, your website will be 320 pixels wide. It will look like somebody just kind of scrunched it in there, and that's good. That's what we want.
Now we're going to think of each one of our HTML elements as being one of 2 types, either a container or content.
Right. A container is an element that you use as a layout tool. It has form, volume, shape. A classic example is the grid container. If you set your grid container at 960 pixels wide, it's 960 pixels wide. It's not 950, it's not 1200, it's 960 wide. You can also have containers in containers, like a grid column in the grid container. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to add 2 divs in here to cut this group of paragraphs in half. I'll put a class on them of column and then I'll float them to the left. The idea here is that all of these container elements are structural and used for layout. They inform the structure of the page.
Content elements are just like what they sound like, elements that hold content. If you take, for example, a paragraph, it's as wide as its parent.
So if you have a naked paragraph on a page, it's as wide as the page. Now on my desktop, that's going to be pretty wide, but on my phone, it's going to be only that 320 pixels wide. The paragraph tag is just holding the content. It's not describing its form. So it's going to be flexible. It will assume the form of the container that it's in. So when I put that content in a container, that's when the magic happens.
Now just to be clear,
yeah,
content elements are not just paragraphs.
Right?
Yeah. They can be images, forms, buttons, specifically anything that isn't a container.
Let's say that we have a container and it's 960 pixels wide and centered, just like most of the websites on the internet that you have ever seen. The problem comes when you view that 960 pixels wide website on a mobile device. Remember the meta tag we placed in the head? That meta tag keeps the website from being scaled down. But look at this. This 960 pixel wide website looks horrible on this little 320 pixel screen. It's just too huge. So that's a problem, and we need to fix that.
Now the last ingredient that we need for our responsive site is to reach in and control the containers and help them conform.
And we're going to do that with media queries. Media queries are little snippets of CSS that query or ask the screen what size it is. You can tell a media query to look for all kinds of conditions. For example, I'm going to say, hey media query, if you see a screen size that's smaller than that 960 pixels wide, which was the size of our container, remove the strict width from that container and let it be a flexible box, which will help it respond to the screen size.
Vis-a-vis responsive.
Nice. Also, I'll override these columns here to not be side by side, because I just don't have the space for it now that I'm on a mobile phone.
Now we see it on the desktop. You'll notice that it's nice and formatted to the 960 pixel container that we set. Now when it's on my phone here, you'll see that it's nice and responsive. It has responded to my screen width, and it's not ugly and hanging over the edge as it was before.
Nice. Nice.
Nice.
A few words about media queries. Media queries are very flexible. You can check if a viewport is smaller than a certain size, or wider, or even shorter and taller than a defined height that you give it. You can even check ranges. Like right here, I'm checking if a screen is between the ranges of 640 and 960. You can even check for media types. For example, on this one, I'm looking to see if this page is going to be printed out, so that I can remove a background, for example, and save on some ink when it is printed.
In the example that Travis gave in this video, we looked at a site that was designated for a desktop, right? And then we caught the exceptions and we fixed them and whatnot. That's called a desktop first approach, or in other words, a mobile last approach. A mobile first approach, however, makes your site look awesome on a mobile device, and then looks to the wider screens and fills them out responsively.
Now the cool kids are all doing mobile first these days. Bootstrap, Foundation, frameworks, this guy. Personally, I don't care. I don't have a preference. I've done it both ways, but maybe if I become cool, I'll start doing it mobile first. I don't know.
Now these three things are the basic essentials to coding a responsive site.
Now here's a quick pro tip before we end for you guys who want to know even a little bit more about responsive design. There are two CSS properties that control the width of an element in a very intuitive and responsive way. They are min width and max width.
Now max width allows your element to be set to a specified limit, but it can also be constrained to a smaller width if needed. Now Travis here is setting the original container to max width 960 instead of width 960. Now we wouldn't need to use a media query here at all, because once my screen width shrunk past 960, the width would just respond to its width. Now in my example here, it'd be 320 pixels.
The min width property will allow my element to shrink naturally, just like normal, but it would have a limit to how small it could get. I have an example here. I could tell that I wanted a row of these three elements to be all on the same line, and then just to shrink them down until each was 150 pixels wide. Now at that point, they would stop shrinking. But if the container of the row got down to 320, like it would be on my phone, I would just have two rows. The elements would just fold because they would be 450 pixels wide together and not have enough room in that 320 pixel container. Now there's a lot more on this subject, but using those three things is a really, really good start.
Buena suerte.
What does that mean?
Good luck.
Okay, good luck. Yeah, that's good. Buena suerte. Really excited to share and announce that all of the example codes that we have now on DevTips are going to be found on the DevTips GitHub profile. You can find a link to the you can find a link to the you can find a link, shut up. You can find a link to the profile in the description, the video description down below, and also a link to this specific repository for the code in this video in the description down below. Please check it out, take a look around, and mess with it, get your feet wet, get your face dirty, and it's fun. Not suppository, repository. Suppository, I'll put your butt.
If you have any questions or suggestions, just leave a comment below and spread the love and send this out to at least one person. It really helps.
It really does. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Keep hacking. I was going for a high five, I got karate chopped.
That was good.
Yeah.
Nice.